Hello, good evening. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of June, 2021. Welcome to another POLISO talk show right here on Africa TV. And we are very much happy to be back this evening again to talk about security matters in the country and, of course, pertaining issues, of course, happening in the country as well. So once again, wherever you are, of course you are, and thank you for joining us. And we're going to have some very interesting matters to discuss again, as we have been doing for the past weeks with the Gambia Police Force. Of course, for the past 4 weeks, we were, of course, from this time to 7 p.m. local time, on somewhere around that time. Of course, we will be talking about security matters. So once again, thank you for joining me, and of course the members of the Gambia Police Force this evening with me. Of course, as always, since the beginning of the program, is the Police PRO Superintendent Lamin Jai. But today also we have the, of course, the Police Anti-Crime Unit, and of course joining us is the head of that unit of the Gambia Police Force, that is Chief Superintendent Mamadou Sow. So we're going to discuss on a very pertinent issue in this country. We're going to talk about theft this evening, so you can see it's going to be an interesting one. Su ko defee mbokk yi ñu ngi leen di nuyu beneen yoon fii ci Africa TV ñu maan mbégte dellusiwaat tey ci ngoon silem comme ni nga koy defee talaata bu nekk bu waxtu bi jotee ñu ànd ak yéen ci jotaay bile waxtaan kaaraange ànd ci Gambia Police Force comme ni nga koy defee saa su ne ci waxtu bi jotee kon ni ma ko waxee talaata doore ko juróom benn waxtu ba juróom ñaati waxtu ci programme bi. Of course tey ñu dellusiwaat war a continuer loolu, xam ngeen civic si yëpp yéen a ngi ànd ak ñun ci jotaay ji ñu ànd ci Gambia Police Force tey incha allah noonu lay demee. Ki nga xamante ne moom moo yore kàddu police bi di Superintendent Lamin Ndiaye, moom mu ngi fi gis ngeen ko, ak tamit Chief Superintendent Mamadou Sow, moom moo jiite li nga xamante ne mooy anti-crime unit bu Gambia Police Force. moom tam mu ngi ci jotaay bi, nañ waxtaan ak moom ci ponk bi nga xamante ne tey boobu lañ indi waxtaanee ko, mooy wàllum sàcc ci réew mi. xam ngeen tamit loolu mbir bu am solo la pour ñu def ci taxaw seetlu waxtaanee ko ci biir réew mi. tey loolu la ñoo waxtaanee ci kanam tuuti ñu ubbi line si ñu mun a jokkoo ak yéen, ngeen mun a ñoo waxtaan wala boo wax ñu li nga xamante ne mooy seen of course seen gis-gis ak seen xalaat ci li nga xamante ne nañ koo dund wala gis ko ci réew mi li aju ci wàllum sàcc. su ko defee mu ngi noonu tey ponk bi loolu la, nañ xuus ak ba gars yi ci biir programme bi ñu dooree ko ak Police PRO. Mr. Njai, of course, it's a pleasure again having you in the program. It has been always interesting for the past weeks, and we hope today or tonight also would be a good one. But first, say hi to our viewers as always.
Thank you so much for having us once again, and we want to extend greetings to the esteemed followers and viewers of the iAfrica TV, especially or particularly this program. It has been very interesting, like you have said, and we will start with extending greetings to the viewers from the Office of the Inspector General of Police and the police senior management and staff, saying greetings to all viewers and followers of iAfrica TV, and particularly this program. Like you have said, today we will look into a situation which is theft in all its forms, that especially regarding house breaking and stealing, or soft breaking and stealing, which is one of the most common criminal offenses that we usually encounter. And they talk about crime most of the time. If you hear crime all over, mainly what we are confronted with as far as our records are concerned is usually to do with issues boiling around theft. Either it is a person being robbed of his or her valuables, or it is a house that has been broken into and valuables taken, or a shop being broken into, or office or related issues. So which is why it is very important for us to talk about that. And that's the very important reason why we also have Chief Superintendent Mamadou Sow here, who is the head of the Police Anti-Crime Unit.
Fantastic. That's great. I would want to believe this topic would generate a whole lot of interest from our viewers. Mr. Sow, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us today. So talk about this very important but delicate matter or topic, if you like, but of course we allow you also to say hi to our viewers.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for having me. I am, as you said, I am Chief Superintendent Mamadou Sow. I am the commander of the Police Anti-Crime Unit. It is a pleasure to come and join this program to talk about theft, which is almost on a daily basis.
Indeed.
We receive complaints about theft. So I think it is an important topic that we should discuss on. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. So, of course, you talk about theft or burglary or stealing, whatever you want to call it, is a prevalent matter in the country. So we felt also it is important that we discuss this issue, of course, that as we make it as a topic today, to discuss it in a broader perspective with the Gambia Police Force. That's why we have the PRO, we have Chief Superintendent, of course, who is the head of the Police Anti-Crime Unit. So, because you talk about theft, you talk about investigation, so we want to, have an in-depth discussion on that. Comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne, we'll do the jahas bahas thing. The waxtaan is going to be English, Wolof and Mandinka. Why not Fula? So, of course, even Jola, if you like. So, that's why it is. PRO, let me start with you. If you talk about theft, just to simplify or to tell our viewers, what are we talking about in a real sense, especially in the context or in terms of law?
For the purpose of the discussion, we'll try to simplify it as much as possible so that we don't become very theoretical.
Absolutely.
But actually what it is all about is property belonging to another person being taken away by another person with an intent to permanently deprive the owner from that particular property. Yeah. It's like you own a particular property and I decide to take it from you with intention to permanently deprive you of your property. And so that is to be understood as theft. Yeah. But importantly also, it happens in different forms. Yeah. And that is why we have said that at some point in time, it happens when a person forcefully or violently take another person's property. We call that robbery. And also in some instance, you have some people go into other people's houses and break in, and then we refer that to as housebreaking and stealing. At some instance, at night, they jump over into the fence of other people's compound and do the same. We call it burglary. So it's like the terminologies differ in one way or the other. Yeah. But then at the end of the day, it is the same thing. Okay. And so which is why it is very concerning, because if you look at our reports, we get a lot of reports that has to do with these situations on daily basis. And so it's important for us to talk about it so that we should always also know or hear from the public as well as to what challenges they are facing regarding this situation. Absolutely. But more importantly also, since this is a discussion also to kind of educate and raise awareness, we should be able to talk about some ways and means people can employ to protect or prevent burglary or theft from happening.
All right, fantastic. We will talk about, of course, prevention and measures, like you said. But before we get there, if you talk about theft or stealing, the first thing that comes to mind is the police. Now, tell us, what role does the police play? How do they deal with theft cases?
Very well. Theft is a crime and it is punishable under the laws of the Gambia. It is a criminal offense. And so the degrees of theft, the way and manner you've done it, is also the manner and way, the kind of punishment you get at the end of the day. Suppose you just ordinarily stealing from a person. The punishment you will get, if you break into somebody's house and steal, you get a higher punishment for that. If you go with a weapon or an instrument or something, and then try to harm that individual in the process of stealing his or her valuables, you get a higher punishment for that as well. And so that degree, the way you do it also is the way you get punishment for it as well, which is why I want to assure the public so that they know that these are not light issues that they are taken up by, it's not taken up lightly by the police. And so at any point in time, a person is caught and ample evidence is gathered, which is to just go to where you're talking about. When the police are aware of this, a report is given to the police. The police take initial steps to confirm, document, and then follow it up with an investigation. And if suspects are arrested and evidence is gathered, obviously that person is prosecuted, and at the end of the day, verdict or sentence is given to punish him or her for the crime that he has committed.
All right, you just talk about crime, and I will bring Mr. Sow here at this juncture, because I know you talk about, he also mentioned about investigation. And if you talk about the anti-crime unit, because you are talking about anti-crime, that is against crime, at what time would the anti-crime come into play when cases of theft are reported to the Gambia police force, or to the police, I should say, or when the police are involved in matters of theft or stealing or burglary in any situation?
Okay, thank you very much for that important question. Anyway, anti-crime is a patrol unit, and we do more of proactive policing, that is to patrol around the town to deter crime being committed. But along the line, if a crime is committed, like for example theft, and then arrest is being made, the matter is subjected into investigation, because anti-crime, the whole unit, we have all the setups. We have the charge office that receive complaints, or if something is brought from the charge office, it is is brought from the patrols, it is the charge office that processes it. If it is need an investigation, they will send it to the investigation department. Then from the investigation department, we also have the prosecution unit that after being all the investigation is being done, and it's also sent to the the prosecution unit that will take it to the courts. So, for example, if a case of theft is being reported, or during the patrol it has been covered, because most of the times during our patrols we might come across somebody who have committed a crime, or is having either having breaking implements, or he have already committed the crime, probably he have committed burglary, and he have the stolen materials. So when such is brought to the office, normally it needs investigation to know how it happened and what was involved, and how the materials probably were disposed of. At times during the investigation, it might lead us to recoveries, and during recoveries we might, most of these materials stolen are sold to people. And at times we might arrest people who bought those stolen properties, and most of those people are charged for receiving stolen properties, because if somebody commit a crime, the next thing is, if you get something valuable, the next thing is you want to dispose it of. And then the people who are also buying these things, they have a role to play, because if you buy a suspected stolen property, then if those materials are arrested in your hands, probably you will be equally charged. But at times we always want the general public also to understand, when such happen, you deal with the higher offense, that is the theft itself. And when probably you secure conviction from the theft, then later you can deal with the person who bought the stolen property. That is the person who is charged for receiving.
That's a very interesting one. And of course, I want you to make it for me to understand. Of course, I want also help the viewers. Now, in terms of investigation, what are some of the challenges that you face? I mean, in making sure that you get to the root of the matter, to get to know the people that are involved, because sometimes these are delicate issues, and people who are attacked or maybe lost their property might be in a haste to make sure the police have to do this, and I need to know what is happening. Where are my properties? How do you deal with such kind of situations as well?
Okay, investigation, it has, although we do face a lot of challenges, but during the investigation we use some techniques. Okay. For example, if your material is stolen, if during the investigation, probably we might get the description of the materials. And also during our patrols, we do recover some materials. And then that also help in. And sometimes when we get a suspect, we do interrogation. But probably people might, if you said interrogation, that doesn't mean that you have to torture the person or you have to, but there are techniques that you use. There are certain questions that you put to a suspect, automatically he will tell you how some of these things happen. And whenever a suspect confesses, he will tell us where he sold those materials. So most of the time, that's why
that is the time he will start assisting the police in the investigation. Most of the time, I hear the PRO says that he will assist the police in the investigation.
Because if you confess, automatically you must tell us where some of those materials are taken. And once you tell us, then you will lead us where some of these materials are being sold, and then we will go and make recoveries. And if materials are recovered, that's a tangible evidence that you can that will help you in your case during prosecution.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, I will come back to you because you mentioned about prosecution and all that. Probably we also get to know what happens when people confess, what is the process follows before they get to the courts and all that. Piero, again, well, let's talk about the rate. How often does the police get, reports of thefts? Because, I may want to believe this would be one of the frequent things that you deal at the police. At what rate in the country? Because sometimes, especially in this advent of mobile phone cases, most of the time people lose their properties and all that. At what rate are we as a country in terms of theft? How often do we deal with these matters?
Importantly, if you look at the crime dynamics of the Gambia, the greatest percentage of crime that the police in the Gambia receive is to do with theft and theft-related issues.
Okay.
So if you're gonna say it in terms of percentage, you could say up to 75 to 80% of complaints that we receive or reports that we receive have to do with theft and related matters. So, which is why people say easily, this kind of crime, we don't know it in the Gambia. People say that very easily. When something else happened which is out of the ordinary, they would say, oh, we don't know this kind of crime in the Gambia. But to be honest, the reality is that most of what happens here as crime has something to do with theft, which is why recently, because we've seen an upsurge in the reported number of cases of theft also, it became concerning for the police to come up with proactive and active patrol measures to ensure that the reports on theft and related matters are being curtailed. Of course, that does not necessarily mean other crimes
are not happening as well.
Pockets of other incidents also happen. But theft is the highest when it comes to a report. You mentioned something about mobile phones, and I think if you visit our police stations on a daily basis, you will understand that the reports of mobile phone theft that will come are just overwhelming.
I know.
And so this is why if you look at our crime records or statistics even, at the end of the day, you will see that 80 to 90% of cases are all boiling around theft and theft-related cases.
Again, in this case, I talk about public cooperation, public support. How does it work with the police? Because most of the time people are involved, and sometimes the police will need certain information to deal with certain cases in specific situations. How often does the public or people that are involved cooperate in your works in dealing with theft cases?
Very well. I think importantly, it is good for us to admit that the public is definitely coming up in supporting the police in terms of information sharing and also helping in uncovering a lot of crime cases, especially recently. We've seen a very enthusiastic public when it comes to relating with the police in recent times. And so we definitely commend the general public and hope that that momentum is continuous. But also, Saul mentioned something here, which is to do with receiving of stolen properties. It's also for the public to cooperate with the police. To deal with theft, we also have a very important role to play because items that are stolen from other people's places find their ways into other people's houses. They steal television from you, they sell it to me, and then I put it in my house, or they sell it to Saul or somebody else, they put it in their house, and you may not come to my house to see if the television is in my house. So if we encourage that, it's going to be difficult to curtail or to curb the menace of theft, which is why we are telling people it's not easy to see on any property written stolen property.
Absolutely.
So most times the excuse is that, oh, I don't know that this property was stolen. But few things, you have to be vigilant. If somebody comes to you 12 o'clock and above in the night and brings for you a flat screen television that is hiding, uncovering, and then says to you, I am selling this, that time alone should tell you, why should you come at this time of the night? Secondly, the price.
The price. I was going to ask that.
The price. The television that cost at 45,000, 50,000, 65,000. Somebody says to you, just give me 7,000. Oh, and then you say, I don't have 7,000. You may end up even buying it at 3,500.
Bro, settle lo ma jox rek.
Wow, settle lo ma jox rek. Man dama yakar. Obviously, it should ring a bell. It should tell you that this property is not clean because you know the market value of that property and how comes. And then the third thing is, even the person that brings you that property, You don't know him to be a renowned trader or somebody who has a shop or something.
Yeah.
But he brings you a valuable something like that, and you are like, okay, man dama lucky torop.
I know.
Man dama lucky torop.
Bilay
Dama tase ak mom rek.
Bi mo dama ci dal quoi. Waaw gars loolu la ñëw dañ ci dal.
So da nga gis ne façon yooyu noonu is not really helping
I know.
The police, because at the end of the day, most often we don't run house to house searches for these things, but the public also have to take up some public responsibility to ensure that whoever brings you property like that, you declare it. If you're suspicious, declare it to the nearest police. They will probe and investigate into the source of that property, and that's how we can get to the bottom of the breakings that are happening around at other places.
All right. So again, well, let's talk about the anti-crime. In most cases, if you talk the anti-crime, you talk about interrogation. Of course, you talk about, when you talk about interrogation, like you said, it doesn't mean it have to be torture or harassment, but most of the time people think, anti-crime, because the way you deal with people sometimes, these suspected criminals and all that. Now, with the mentality people have, around the anti-crime unit, how do you also deal with that in your work, in terms of theft in any other situation?
Okay, thank you very much.
The misconceptions around the anti-crime unit. And all that.
At times it's difficult because people just sit and speculate. And probably if you are not a victim, you might not know how anti-crime works.
Yeah.
But we are a unit, and then when people's cases are reported there, we take it with seriousness. There is a way to handle criminals. There's a way to do interrogation. It doesn't actually mean you must torture or this, but there are techniques.
Yeah,
there are certain questions that you need to ask, and then probably the person will lead you to such. Is that because we are devoted in what we are doing, and when things come to the office, we take it with seriousness?
Yeah, but also
because at times it's not only, we don't only depend on interrogation. At times especially when things involve mobile phones, and then in this era of GSM, at times we print out also do help, because there are certain communication that you can do, and then if you follow up print out, sometimes it leads you to help you to recover some mobile phones. Yes.
I was going to say, in terms of the techniques that you talk about, maybe not only here in the Gambia, but anywhere around the world, you talk about interrogation, there are of course techniques, but in some point, suspected criminals wouldn't want to talk, so you have to do certain things to get them to get you the information. So this, we don't have to right here. I mean, thinking that it's going to be only talk. Sometimes if you don't do certain things, they don't tell you what the information or exact things that happen.
Of course, there are techniques, and there are ways also we do handle them, because it's not like sometimes you discourage them. Sometimes you can keep the person, keep him just like you forget about him. For the whole day, probably you will not talk to him. He will be in that condition. Sometimes you have to a bit of traumatize them, show them that definitely when you come again, you talk to them, they will try to give you the information you need. But I know it's not easy to handle criminals. It's not an easy thing, but sometimes the seriousness help.
Some people would say they are always step ahead of the authorities. People like you, when you think they are always in the next level. So you need to. Of
course, criminal, because once they are always planning ahead of you. Because at times, before, most of the times when the unit was formed about 2 years ago, you can see most of the times we, on a weekly basis or on every 2 weeks, we will see that we will invite the media on showing out most of the recoveries we do. Because the criminals also are learning on how things have been done. Because right now, they knew that patrols are always going on. So there are ways that they try to beat up some of these patrols, and then some of these things that are also stolen, sometimes they will beat the Gambian market and then go outside the country. But sometimes it is very difficult to recover some of those things. But because black market, most of the times they know when things happen, we go to Serekunda, and then, yes, it helps. But at times now, you hardly make good recoveries at the market, because especially these gazettes, most of them knows that when police are there, when they make print out, especially certain expensive mobile phones, if you sell them in the market here, they will be retrieved, and then probably you will be caught. But the general public also should understand that we need relevant information, and it's them who should help us in fighting crimes. Because if you give us tangible info, as PRO has highlighted, most of these materials that are stolen are found in our houses. They are bought by our own brothers.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask again, because like you said, he made mention of a very important point of how people buy stolen properties. Again, because sometimes, like he said, people may say, man, how I don't know, the and all that. In this case, how do you deal with that? If somebody steals property and sold it to somebody, maybe that person even might also sold it to somebody. So it might be a long chain. So in this case, if you get to hold of the thief or the suspected criminal, how do you deal with such situations also?
Yes, if you buy a suspected stolen property, it depends on how you bought it, because as PRO highlighted, if something is sold at $35,000, you bought it at less than $10,000, automatically that will show the police that you must got to know that this is not a clean something. It must be stolen. And sometimes it might move from one hand to the other hand. But the investigation will follow up until what we are interested is to recover. And once we recover, anybody who is involved in it must be caused and must be charged. Yes. At times we might, in a case of one property, will move from one hand to the other hand. But all those hands that it reach, it will depend on how the person secure or how the person got it. Because if, for example, I bought it from the actual doer of the crime, let's say a flat screen worth 35,000, I bought it for 7,000. Then also I go and sold it to, let's say, at a reasonable price of even not 35,000, but if I bought it, if I sell it at 30,000, then probably you, the person who initially bought it, you can be charged for reasonable. Probably the other one can be used as a witness against you at the courts, because probably the price is but it also depends on the circumstance in which he bought it. When he was selling this property, was he hiding it, or was he in which time of the day? Was it at night? Because at times when somebody stole something and bring it, hiding it, and then also the price also count a lot. So all those are most of the things that we also count to be able to qualify this person to be charged for receiving stolen property. Yes.
All right. When we started, the PRO said, of course, we should be focused also on the prevention and all that, which is very, very important. But at this juncture, I need to remind you that you are watching the POLISO talk show live on Africa TV. If you are joining us for the first time, make it a date. We are here on every Tuesday from 6 p.m. local time to 7 p.m. And we want to say thank you so very much for joining this course. And of course, in a moment, we should be opening the lines for you can call in and have your say. And of course, we also switch into the local languages as well to widen in the discussion. Like I said at the beginning, we wouldn't also want to hear from you, because we are talking about a very delicate, a very prevalent, of course, topic or issues related to theft in the country. So you heard from both the PRO and the head of the anti-crime unit of the Gambia Police Force how they do the work that is involved in terms of dealing with theft in the country and all that. Just Mr. PRO again, just finally, before we talk about prevention, just to sum up what we have discussed in the local languages. I know you would come in as always in Wolof, and then he will come in Mandinka. Yes, ñu ngi waxtaan affaire yi sàcc ci réew mi mu nekk mbir mi nga xamante ne lu gën a bari la ñoo dégg ci réew mi sàcc xew na fii ak xew na fale léegi Gambia police wala police bi naka la ñoo diilee situation yu mel nii sàcc surtout si li nga xamante ne mooy ci kër yi nu mu faa xewee ak tamit si report yi nga xamante ne nga ko am.
jërëjëf comme ni ko waxee am na solo trop pour ñu waxtaanee wàllum affaire tafaar sakantuma lu jublu si sàcc dafa bari torop te dañ ko dee am report su ko defee sax loolu moo tax maa ngi doon wax ñun tafaar yuñ dee am yëpp suñu ko xaymee dafa mel ni lu jëmee sàcc moo dee gën a bari su fekkee téeméer bu nekk la juróom-ñetti fukk wala juróom-ñaari fukk ak juróom yëpp dafa nekk lu jëmee sàcc te sàcc nag nuñ ko dee defee anam yu ñu ko dee defee dafa bari torop moo tax luwaa bi tamit noonu la ko terale su fekkee da nga sàcc si nit rek dugal sa loxo si poosam nga jël alalam loolu su la yóbbee si luwaa bi ak keneen koo xam ne bu mu doon jël alal nit ki dafa jël paaka wala dafa jël gànnaay mu traité ko mu jël alalam loolu su ko defee kooku punishment am wala yar bu moo am mooy gën a mag su ko defee tamit koo xam ne dafa toj néegi jàmbur mu dugga si biir mu sàcc foofu noonu kooku tamit mooy gën a am punishment wala yar bu gën a mag te tamit sakantuma su fekkee si guddi nga dem foofu noonu mu wax burglary su ko defee nga dugga si néegi jàmbur si guddi nga toj foofu noonu su ko defee nu nga koo gën a defee sa yar bi tamit wala duma bi tamit noonu la dee gën a magee su ko defee nag lu ñoo wax nit yi mooy police yi suñ amee report yi sàcc duñ ko dee jëlee caaxaan parce que ñu bëri foog ñu wan leen loolu noonu loolu moo tax waxtaanee woon nañ fii affaire mob justice su ko defee nag ñu wan nit yi ne
foofu bëggoon naa faa ñëw de parce que léegi nga jàpp sàcc bi mu ñëw guddi balaa moo jot ci loxo police yi dana daj lu nekk
dëgg la loolu moo tax am na solo pour ñu wan askan wi ne loi bi noonu la terale sàcca anam nu mu ko defee rek sa punishment bi wala sa yar bi noonu la dee gën a sérieux su ko defee nit yi buñ gis ne diw saa nga dafa sàcca suma bagage su ko defee nag téye naa ko kon jarul ma yóbbu ko police kon naa ko dumal suma boppa su ko defee loolu dafa mel ni yow tamit yaa ngi jël loi si sa loxo te loolu loi Gambia nangut ko so am na solo pour nit yi yëg loolu noonu waaye tamit lu am solo tamit mooy comme ni waxoon nañ ko fii mooy wàllum ñu dee jënda bagaasum wala alalum sàcc
di ko léegi ngay doxantu ni rek waa ji break la bro bëggoo lii dafay dem de soo yu mel noonu
gis nga am na solo torop pour nit yi ñu dimbalante
ñu bàyyi
si xel because mun naa wax ne dafa am ñoo xam ne sax ñu ngi am ñu am respect la si society te ñu ngi am ay business ñoo xam ne seen business bi ñu ngi ko taxawal si kaw di jënd alalum sàcca di ko dem jaay si marché bi wala si seen bitik yi ñun xam nañ loolu noonu su ko defee bañ demee ba téye la ñu ne kii xam nañ ne kii ku baax la lu moo nekk fii rek mooy ne dafa si jëndam jaayam la nekk su ko defee nag police yi ñu ngi koo sonal te fekk liñ xamul mooy ndekete kooku bitikam wala place am alalum sàcca yëpp la moom da ko dee jëndee cheap price
bugal lu yomba
mu dem jaay ko price bu seer si marché secondly dafa am ñoo xam ne tamit comme ni ma ko waxee.
est-ce que joguma la sax ñooñu mel ne duñ di am seen client seen bopp ñoom tamit.
waaw loolu moo tax ma ne.
tax ñi nga xamante ne ñoom tamit
nañ dimbalee. police yi tamit. parce que yow sooy def loolu noonu. dafa mel ni yow yaa ngi encourage.
absolument
ñoo xam ne dañoo dem because gis nga sàcca. nit su amul marché. pour mu sawar si sàcca dafa jafe. parce que man su ma xamee ne léegi su ma sàccee sa téléphone bi. fii dama laaxa fii nii rek ma jaay ko. ma jaay ko foofu. su ko defee kon su ma defee loolu benn yoon. damaa gën a encourage pour ëllëg ma defaat. loolu moo tax ñun ñëpp dañu war a jàppalante su la nit isalee bagage si guddi. xaaji guddi mu ñëw muy denca télévision bi sax. flat screen boo xam ne yoo xam nga ne bii soo demee si marché bi mu ngi jar 65000. kii ñëw isil la mu ne la ne 5000 7000. nga war a xam ne. dégg nga de dafa mel ni
dafa mel ni am nañ call kon numbers yaa ngi noonu 2323 213 ñu jël suñu first caller bi hello caller.
hello jërëjëf.
yes hello.
hello man la Lamin laa tudda.
ok Lamin foo ñëw koole.
England.
all right ñu ngi lay déglu Lamin.
waaw seen programme bi am na solo.
jërëjëf
fairness bi ngeen a jox the masses. man dama am few questions.
ok
yéen a ngi nit ñi day jënda si nit yi on the way. lu ma bëgg a laaj mooy am net get involved in this land issues. ndax ñooñu tamit seen biir am na dina waral woori lool parce que bari nañ ay estate agent in the Gambia jël nañ xaalisi nit yi te daw ay niin an la foofu noonu especially anti crime
ok voilà jërëjëf loolu point beneen mbir bu am bu délicate la parce que mu ngi dugg si beneen affaire suuf moom ak real estate yi yooyu xam naa ne topic boppam la loolu moom Piero waaw
xam naa ne xëy na dañoo def topic boppam parce que laan moom sax sakantuma xam nga programme bi sax international yi dafa am ñu nekk si diaspora te ñoom ñu bëri dañ dee jànkuwante problème su mel noonu su ko defee sax dinañ fi taxawal programme boo xam ne dinañ ko discuss su ko defee dinañ woon nit yi si yoon jaar yu ñoo jaar
inshallah Lamin ñu ngi la asoone sa concern bi nañ ko del nañ deal ak moom xëy na du nekk tey waaye gars yi nañ take note te tamit anti crime I think they have a role to play in that moom mu ngi leen di laajte or is it gonna be
importantly luñ ko bugg a wan rek mooy police ñun criminal investigation lañ dee def te case boo report police dañ ko investigate xool ndax luwaay Gambia méngoo na ak case boobu noonu in terms of criminal nature of that case so su ko defee nag su fekkee case bi laan la rek waaye nag am na criminalité lu si xew police yi dinañ investigate loolu te koo xam ne dafa yaaxal luwaa si wàllum crime dinañ ko teg si ATK bi waaye leneen tamit luy xew mooy dafa am yeneen saa yoo xam ne laan maata bi nu moo demee dafa dem dafa nekk civil case so su ko defee nag police amuñ doole pour ñuy investigate civil matter wala ñu koy prosecute because ñun amuñ doole to prosecute civil matters so ñaari fànna yi ñoo fa nekk so waaye nag comme ni nga ko waxee rek we assured him that dinañ isi programme boo xam ne we will deal with because am na ay land case yu bëri yoo xam ne even involve real estate yi ñu ngi leen di investigate te cases yi yeneen yi sax ñu ngi leen teg si ATK bi
déggul so mu ngi noonu am na keneen ku nekkaat ci line bi hello caller
hello asalaamaaleykum
waaleykum salaam
yo
inimbara juma yes hello
ikam moy le ba
yen ke moy la
okay ko la contribute demanding kamola because album and dia kuma kelenga okay yalong ni sungo sama melkata sunya
hello yes hello okay we sorry line bi taxu ko leer noonu the line is somehow of course breaking but is he call now then we will try to see if we can hear you I know Piero you were talking about something very important but because we need to allow now so to call him Mandinka because we have Mandinka callers also we want them to understand better of course what we are talking about yes Mr. So of course just to sum up what we discussed my Mandinka is so much good that I wouldn't want to test it on air so I would just allow you to go on and deal with just to sum it up of what we discussed yes
okay so mbaɗi kol mi yalon ko wela moyta programme ɓe contonna ɓe mo ɓe contonna ko na programme o ɓe taka ñamen ko anti crime yalon tol mo
yes I would stop you because we have a caller yes hello caller
yes assalamu alaikum
wa alaikum salam alhamdulillah
yes program
sorry
in colony
okay all right
yes the police had
hello
I said the police really
yes
but what is
we're struggling on the line also today but please do keep trying and we see if we can be lucky to clearly hear from you, because we would want, of course, to hear your concerns and some of the things you may want to ask, the police to clarify in any of the issues that we might have discussed here today, or probably you are also concerned of it related to theft or any other case happening in the country, or even if you are outside, why not? You can call in. Yes, you continue, Mr. So.
Kobe ngafanya anti-crime tola unit mu pour ka kata patrol ka jibe ko momo mi yalon ko yekuke wala ye luati nyange arrest muka batu pour ka fo mole na e complaino tol ka minke ka patrol nga jibe pour nga try ko crime o kana happen wala natara hapunta den bajela ko be meso stala nyame pour mi yalon ko yakenge arrest ko bimbe kacala min na wolon tafaro wolon suñaro te suñaro ko piaro ya fa nyamin abe fanna jamale to ese dol jemili alon ko ese bulo bula mola poso kono ya la fenta wola punishmento anen mi alon ko ay mota atara mola bungota je kati ay fengota je mi ya lon kay woke wala la punishmento be gana hayla mi ya lon kay bulo bula mola poso kono ay fenta andon abe wala nyama fana mi ya lon kay ay jorango cika ay mola dula kati fana ay barma je wallahi ay muro cika kamma wala fana tabe gana garawla so the other thing is suñaro naketa mola bagasol ni ike wafule andon ni moye fen suña mi ya lon ko comme like television o nyemi yalon ko ala value at market level akatala fu wuli tansaba wala wuli tansaba nim fen yewo samba moyena wo fene suto dutala kaka wafule price mi yalon ko aman hani wuli tansi yalon ite mari fo nyantalo nala ko nyinde abe minto aman koy wo sifa na te kay nyanta trale le polisol kala mutande bar ni asang ya muta den investigation on ata ya muta den.
Okay, we have a caller. Okay, you can continue. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Salaam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes, police. By quickly that the full and then the also do fully Canada fully continue inform technique. What I think they should intelligence
well, the line is not helping us today again. Yeah, we're sorry for that, of course, but we still want to give you the chance to call in and, of course, have your say. But before we probably have our next caller, we will just allow Mr. So to learn. Yeah, because it is important, so this have to be clear as well. Yeah, you continue.
Tamia lonko among koi. Then ni investigation on nata abe fengo mutale bulla andu imari ibe arsala katafo kafo police ole ko malon ko nyi musu nyar fengo lati wo ite fengo bondila no wo kono because
that's not an excuse.
That's not an excuse because ne fensa me alon ko ma sam bitikoto ya san silole kan wala mo nata fene ya suto and I wa
All right. Somebody again is on the line. Hello, caller.
Yes, sir.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Yes, alaikum salam. Fine, alhamdulillah. Jumalom.
Ya, antala mukemo sisenda.
Okay, Kemo.
Antel bemula PRO nginenka.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Ya, ada landun dalla program fale. Amenka
hello? Yeah, I love the PRO Nyininkala, but Nyininkaro Mamfuta. That's too bad, really. Yes, so again, you know, we're sorry, but no, we'll be interrupted frequently by the callers, you know.
It's not an excuse. Kafoko nga fensanne malonko sunyar fengolong. Oh, it's not an excuse. Ne luai mutarek ebe kitindila andong luwaɓe busolale kan so mbe mol yamar la min wolonde jana public ki ntol nim polisol be ñanta collaborer pour nga ñew makoy kato ñim fengol men ikamin sang ala ni aje mo ka suñaro ke ay maketo soto la ba wafla dami andu ñim fengol ikamil sang akata mol la kordal kono walla akata maketo le kono so ni fenje mi yalon ko amari ba wafu kan anda aka wafu min na la price o man a doyata bake andon pala fengo ñinga expensive tale a traye police involved janni ba sanna because ni woke rek ibaje la ko be mol tankandilal andu be fengo tankandilal but ni asar ya samba at the end of the day police be no kan nandum ibe bagaso talal andu asi ise kitindi don
okay in this case ni moles sunyaro ke and police ya muta and then you are called to answer you know in this case anti-crime be mune role play in this case you know I want you also to clear to tell us about that you know how do you deal with these people and the process of kelanyadi and all that
okay comme ya fo nyam ni case sotota ni moy fen report mi alon ko sunyaro keta the first thing is investigation of amount la then the investigation of amount fa ye mi ya sunya ya arrest wala min tu me wo ya arrest then interrogation of
yeah again somebody's on the line yes hello caller
yeah assalamualaikum
walaikum salam yes hello
yeah entar la fa kanyen ko pia aro nyin kay no
yeah okay
mana fa left ko nyin nan session be kon yo la fa kala la police right no foreign regist
hello well he still cannot come through we are having some issues with the line I want to believe today so I don't know what's happening but just now we'll just allow you finally to learn and then we see if maybe we have any lucky caller. I think the only caller from England, he's the only one who is lucky this evening. Yes.
Okay, wolong mbe nyinen karole kala mbe commenting e ka fu mi tiba kan ko interrogation interrogation manke commenting ka fu ko ne mo sindire iba tajere yala wala iba butela la pour amari diam hani police ol fana nga techniques la soto mi alon kan ka wole use nka information soto wala ka kuma kan soto mobile pour mi alon ka be makoyla na kiskisro lombe min kunto
That's good.
so wo nimbe wola ngalon nen ka tamande nyame andu wala fanan kam makoy ka je konse bagasol do recover no so ne kuna rek fo investigation o ka wo investigation o kono wo kuol dol kana funti wol to mi yalon ko ye fengo sanne wala ya sunya mun tole andu ya wafu mun tole den saje kon se bulano kam fonga fengo nyin soto
All right.
den sana kaytul dala ki samba kiti dula
All right. Wasine ya sala barka bake pour ñëwaat rek ci PRO mom tam mu ngi doon wax lu am solo but right now time bi halaka sori na dama bëgg mo ñu focus more on the prevention nit ñi tamit nan lañ mëna def pour wañi ñun de sàcce seen bagage parce que tamit naa mu chance ne sàccekat yaa ngi def seen def police yaa ngi liggéey pour gis ne ku def tafaar dañoo diil ak yow wala fexe jàppala waaye nit ñi tamit lan lañ mun a def ba gis ne xëy na mun nañoo aar liñ am seen alal nga nekk ci kër gi léegi bañ a tëj bunta bi léegi teg sa mobile nga dem ak yu mel noonu nit ñi naka lay mun a def ba wàññi li nga xamante ne mooy yëfi tafaar li ñoo sàcc seen bagage yi tamit mooy prévention bu ñoo wax.
waaw dëgg la am na solo dafa mel ni xëy na benn programme sax du jeexal.
non absolument loolu laa gis. loolu laa gis
continuer waaye tamit lu am solo tamit mooy. comme que dugga nga si prévention bi. waaye lu am solo mooy sécurité. ku nekk da nga war a nekk sa sécurité boobu.
waaw
nga protect sa alal sa bagage ak lu nekk. su ko defee wax nga fi wàllum tëj néeg yi. yeneen saa yi waxuma ne nit yi duñ dee teg seen néeg yi waaye yeneen saa yi da ngaa dégg ñuy wax ne sàcca bi daajut bunta bi damut palanteer bi te corget bi tamit bonut soo kon naka lam duggee si biir néeg xëy na dafa mel ni nit yi dañ nelaw tëjuñ bunta bi
delloo bunta bi rek
wala ñu delloo bunta bi tëjuñ ko wala karnaat bu ñu jël pour tëj bunta bi dëgërut noonu soo su ko defee loolu yëpp nit yi dañ war a see bàyyi seen xel waxuñ ne soo defee loolu noonu wala su saata ñëwee sa nit dafa yow yaa tey loolu pour mu def loolu
dafa mel ni amaat nañ keneen ku dugga ci line bi ñu seet kooku bu dee dana tane léegi ñu seet hello Kola.
Hello Amadou.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, tell Omar Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Allah program obe. Okay.
Abarka bake.
Then remember for la series. Only continue. So and
Yes.
Because of Bangkok and city could you tanka back.
Yeah.
Do momo ka baga so sa ete la fa sala latino.
Hello? Okay, we lost, but he was talking about affaire sacha bi la don wax, so that's gender bagage bi ak yoyu. I think that's important comme so num ko waxe.
So am na solo torop pour nit yi ñu bàyyi seen xel si wàllum security bi te tëj bunta yi ñu baax wala nga jënda padlock yu correct wala bunta yi seen koñ ci ak lu jëmee nu ñu dëgër su ko defee nag loolu dina tax ne pour penetration wala entry bi dafa jafe secondly mooy exposure bi di nga gis ne yeneen saa yi waxuma ne loolu moo dee tax ñu sàcc sa bagage waaye tamit am na solo pour nga denca sa alal yi waaw doo amee expensive mobile nga denca ko wala doo amee sa kalpe boo xam ne yaa ngi fa amee xaalis nga bàyyi sa xel si kalpe boobu noonu wala yaa ngi si moto ñay sa moto bi nga teg mobile bu expensive si kanami moto si kaw moto bi nii wala laptop yu seer yi nii nga teg leen si kaw te nga tëj moto bi sax nga bàyyi ko foofu nga dem kuy romba sax mu taxaw si palanteer bi mu xool si biir moto bi rek dina gis tey nii sax am nañ report at West Coast region am nañ fa xale bu ndaw boo xam ne 14 years la am te xale boobu noonu révélation lu mu jox police yi li mu wax police yi foofu dafa doy waar torop mu ne moom ni mu toll noonu dafa am ay criminal gang yoo xam ne moom lañ dee use pour muy toppa nit yi su fekkee ne yow da nga dugga si banque moom dafa toog si boori si buntu banque bi mu xool la soo génnee si banque bi mu toppa la fi nga dem ba mu xam ne kër sàngam la dugga mu ñëw wax ko gang bi ne diw sàmmam gis naa ko si kër sàngam la dugga su ko defee gang yooyu noonu ñoom ñu plan ñu ñëw toj néeg
ñu xam ne kii teel a dem si banque bi am na dara tey moom
su fekkee yow moto nga am te yaa ngi receive xaalis nga dugal xaalis bi si biir moto boobu noonu xëy na dafa am foo ko paak moom dafa ñëw ba taxaw gis yu fa nekka mu dem wax ko gang yooyu noonu gang yi sax police yi arrêté am nañ ñu si police yi arrêté ba pare ñu ngi leen di nekka di investigate interview ak yooyu noonu su ko defee xëy na duñ demee ba xam ñaata bagage leen sàcca ak bagage yooyu fan leen nekka dinañ ñëw
alright dafa mel ni am na beneen call bu ñëwaat ci line bi gars yi ñu ngi dugga si ba léegi hello Kola.
Allo, salaamaaleykum.
Waaleykum salaam.
Yeah, left a contributor demanding.
Okay.
Yeah, left police wala ñinen kala.
Okay.
Yo, men kata small la kodi. Yo. About sum bun sayan gambe bunda be garanti bar sum ye bunda ke nyawnya ka wutul.
Yes, hello?
Ya, ancora foi da manca bunda garanti net.
Ha.
Sumul. Yanda action da sumul la kodret. Ani bunda garanti ko fo moñna folo. Na do ko lo yin sumul la kodo folo. Bunda be garanti sa Gambia.
Okay.
Ani me fanga baga so sang. Allah foi do fana bidata. Ni me
Okay. All right, thank you.
Baraka bake ngala ni nga moya ka min e fodoro wala nyenti ko bunda sa bamba ni nyaaw nya ñu sungol ka katino le ka teno awum to nyaati wala tina ab jarta pour nga bambandi ko because ya bomman ni nyaaw nyaay to luka ferol sotal so wala tane sako ni ma bomman ni mume ken yalla wo kay bi na lay tama do
absolutely woga
so
woga sone ya bagale
pour nga katwo ke dorong isaje ko katanko sembo warani parce que do bi je fanan ka jale bunda dol bi je wol mo ka sorom fam ka jale sun kana na ka dundulato i fangal ka bara mum bunda kati am palantir kati andonga mum bungu santo so.
Okay, we have another caller. Hello, caller. Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Very well. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Abdullah Balde, calling from Switzerland.
Good, Abdullah. We're listening. What do you want to contribute?
Yeah, I really want to comment. Like, La Banco Dal. Anyway, we have to support the security.
Hello, Abdullah. Are you there?
Yes. Yeah, Madam Falca Moy Bachalagan.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, let me focus. Let's try and support the police.
Okay.
Tonya, if they do take an anyama bari banko bolu, we have to support them to the maximum level.
Yeah.
It's only in the Gambia, in Yaba Jaleman police or arm. If it are police station or Mototige, Mathematige, Sentige, so at the Koleala Bakel, Purina, Dokuti, Anyama. Aketa sunya roti wo, aketa pengo penti wo, na aketa immediately if you call the police, put your foot on no, quickly akakoleale. So alinga kata dal we look into those things na police makoi itila do ko no anyama ni sungolu, they are within us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ndo ko talk no la nyami ndo wala nga tra nga police temben tu yandi. The Sulala Kuol Minga also intact. Near police commanding it is down to no in time.
Abarka. Thank you very much, Abdullah. I think, you are one of the lucky callers today. We have a very clear line now. Thank you for your he's talking about police support and wakumaya tabakele. You know, make sure that you have the mobility response. That's quite important.
Very well. Ala wakumol kumaya tabake. Kome itandi nyame abole nyama. Ngamera fanga kaba Switzerland. So ala niba Switzerland ya police wal jehoro. Ye mira Gambia la fanga bala nalako.
Huge gap difference.
Ya sembo warta bakele. So ananga hafa nyama kumaya wala nyama. Response time. Wo kuma balti tafaro bayro wala nyindi ko numo sulata police wala dorong ay call ke akana me dorong police wala futa wala raka demaro dial.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Hello, caller. Hello. Yes, hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Balkon na bati.
Okay, abarka.
The program of an ambassador.
Okay.
Police olu le template de la bati da kata ku nyuma de ngeka. Banko modu nyanda ka kata bake nyanda police olu e dema ngaje ko na do kula le miti. Ne dema tamarangal to ne dema kuluro fana na karola.
Yeah.
Bari ni ajuben na society kono la kuluro tinyata bake society kono la. Yonata ko dogo fanko len police ol bulu bake. Woto intel be ni police ol nyanda kam bulola nyokan ka kuriya kele banko kam. Woto be duale mbake be kada kulma benna ya lafa bake be banko dogo le la.
Barka.
Adun ala le be jola ila katole be binte kam banko kam.
All right, abarka. Thank you.
Balkon na bake mba jeyla. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much. Abarka Bake, I think. Yeah.
Commune Doranga kuma kilimfo woto kuma yata baka ko mo se mako roke kuluro la kalora anu kuluro la karola nu poli mako roke woto abe de ma roke la baka la ning tafar ko nga même foten pour aba talal nyami amadou woto kuma yata baka wala tan mba fo kanu bi ntata banyulu nding station nga dinni wo taraje mi alon ko sanji tan nani akabe wolta brase ka mo fonsi bari nyin dinno ko ate criminal gangol lebe kere mi alon ko atebe do ko la walla ka ta ki e ka fa ko taye bula mol noma ni tata bankito ni mom ye ko di jamata ye bula noma fo ya longa dunda korda jumala kon yana ya fontole isaje ko na ya foytole itol ba plan la fo sutole bitaje bang fo dutala la bitaje isita o korda tay o ko do min dunda je yota walla ni tam mo moto tiolti ye ko do tay dundi la moto kono asabule no may la moto jiba kata mun tole fay woto long ay wosilol long ay na ya fo ni molem fana so akaminda ka tebe wala nyama dron wala hana moto tara pakren dinkiralto asalo moto bala kono jibe ay fengol jeje ay ta futan ñune ni manke talent because ay police ma ko kibaro to fo la bang la ala o criminal ganga ka do ko kam mignole ya dol muta wol kono le fango say e ba qu'est-ce que so wala dina ko mayata pour alfa na sa ma ko roke bake adina wala kuluro
Abarka Bake, I think on you Mr. So just lastly of course time is not our side, we got to go for today, but I think we have to continue discuss this one next week. We'll get them, both of them will be back. Yes, on a final note, Mr. So, what will be your final message? Of course, like, because I was just thinking, how do you deal with cases of minors being involved, like, you know, PRO have just highlighted? These are all issues that we can talk about next week, but probably in a final note, what message would you want to send to the Gambian people and those that watching in terms of the anti-crime role in supporting people or the Gambians in dealing with theft cases and all that? But like I said, we'll be back next week, God willing, to continue the discussion, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. What I urge the general public is the police need their support, and then we cannot work in isolation without the public. What we want is the public to help us with relevant information. We are ready to secure the general public, and we are ready to secure them and their lives and their properties. But we cannot do it without the collaboration of the general public. So all we are urging from the public is share relevant information that can help the police to curb down the crime. Of recent, we have seen that there is a reduce in crime because of the public are sharing information, and once information are shared and they are relevant, the police will work on them, and then it will help us in curbing down crimes.
Yeah, public cooperation is key in your work.
In our work, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Chief Superintendent Momodu Sow. He's the head of the Police Anti-Crime Unit. So it was good to have him here today, so he can explain and tell us more about their operations and how they work in dealing with different cases, but especially theft in the country. PRO, we finally come to the end of today's program again. Thank you very much for coming, and just your final words for today.
Thank you so much. I think finally I will just point out the fact that the receiving of stolen properties is very important for us, for people to declare these stolen properties, because this helps a lot to get investigations to uncover and solve crime cases that happen at other places, people's back places. So if it is you that the property is brought to, you can just declare it, and then that will help the police to solve a breaking case in another person or a neighbor's house. But if you keep that property, it's like you are making it difficult for a neighbor's breaking case to be solved. And so who knows, tomorrow it might be your own house. So for people to be each other's keeper when it comes to dealing with theft cases. But like you said, we will continue with this one next week.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Because you can see it have generated a great interest from our viewers, and I think because we in fact would have had a lot of calls, but because of the line, we could not hear from many of them watching right now. But it was good to hear from them as always. Thank you very much for trying to call and contribute to the program as always. But of course, we'll be back next week Tuesday for another edition of the POLISO Talk Show right here on Africa TV. Thank you to the PRO once again for coming, and of course to the anti-crime commander, Mr. Sow, also for joining us today to discuss on this very delicate issue or matter of theft in the country. We will continue the discussion next week. Thank you very much for watching. Until we meet again, do have a very pleasant night, and bye for now.